Personally, I sometimes get stuck in the decluttering process, or I don't have the motivation, or I'm just not in the mood. And so today's video is about getting you excited. I've done a different one of these where I share 50 things to declutter, but I just wanted to add 15 more to get you excited to go out there and to declutter and to get on top of your stuff and take control of your life. This isn't about guilt. This isn't about shame. This is about getting you out there and just getting rid of a few things that you really don't need or really want. The first thing you can declutter today are the tiny bits of garbage that find their way in little spots around your home. As I've been doing more declutters lately, I've noticed one of my biggest problems in actually keeping my home streamlined is that I just don't throw things in the trash or the recycling right away. And so I think just taking a few minutes to go around and grab a few bits of garbage and put them where they go can actually make a big dent in how cluttered your home feels. I also think if you do that a little bit more regularly, it helps prevent the clutter from building up. Second, don't forget to declutter those socks that don't have a match. And sure, maybe sometimes you keep them for a little bit of time because sometimes you do find the match, but I'm talking about those socks in the back of your sock drawer, or maybe they're even in a weird other place that have been sitting around for months or maybe even years that do not have their match. I had this habit in the past of collecting them in this bag and putting it in the back of my closet, and slowly I had this massive heap of socks that did not have a match, and it took up a lot of space in my closet, and maybe occasionally a sock would find its mate, but in general, that bag got bigger and bigger, and I'm talking this lasted years. So this is just a reminder, if you're doing that too, maybe you can let go of some of that guilt of those fallen soldier socks and just let them go. Third, don't forget to declutter clothes that don't match your lifestyle anymore. My style has shifted over the years. What I used to wear on the weekends during college 10 years ago is not what I wear on the weekends now. Similarly, I used to have what I called therapy clothes for when I used to deliver or give therapy to people as a therapist. I really tried to have very bland, kind of muted tones, clothing that wasn't totally distracting to what was happening in the therapy session. But often I really didn't like those clothes, but I kept them for a while after, just thinking, you know what, they're here, I should use them. But realistically, they don't match my lifestyle. I don't use them much anymore. And so I've gradually decluttered those therapy clothes that I really no longer use. Another one that's similar is to declutter clothes that you haven't worn in a year. Those clothes that you never wear are actually more of a nuisance in that they mask the clothes that you actually love. There have been times where I've even forgotten about my favorite pieces because the ones I don't like just are in front of the ones I do. I also like the timeline of a year in that it allows all 4 seasons to have happened. If you really haven't worn it in a full year, it might just be time to get rid of it. Another thing to declutter are t-shirts that you keep just for the memories. You know those t-shirts that maybe you got when you were part of some sporting group or in a play, or when you were part of a volunteer group and you keep just to remember those times? I know I used to have a whole pile of these, but gradually, again, I realized they were just more of a nuisance than a help. And I could remember the memories without those pieces, especially through photos or looking through old albums. Keeping these t-shirts just wasn't worth it to me, especially if the t-shirts just weren't very comfortable or didn't fit me right. A sixth thing to declutter right now are buttons that came with the clothing. Because let's be real, how often do I find those buttons when I need them? And also, how often do I need them? Knock on wood, I don't remember the last time that I actually lost a button off of a piece. And if you do ever need to replace a button, you can go to a sewing store and find the best match. So I just don't think it's worth it to keep the buttons every time you get a new garment. A seventh thing to declutter are attachments to gadgets. So for me, an example is I have this food processor that I use and love, but I always use the same type of blade or processing. I don't use all these different kind of specialized blades that are supposed to slice and dice gifts in certain ways. I mean, it would be nice if I did, but realistically, I just don't. And those are kind of sharp. If you reach into a back cupboard and they just happen to be there, there might be a problem. So I realized it would just be smart for me to declutter the ones I never use. This applies though to plenty of other kitchen gadgets or gadgets around your home. Just think through whether you need all the pieces. What do you actually use? A ninth one are gifts you've been keeping out of obligation. And I think this gets into emotions and relationships and memories, and it can be hard to let go of things if we feel like someone was very thoughtful in getting this gift for you. I know that's something I've really struggled with in the past. But the thing I always tell myself is that if that person knew I was feeling guilt and all this consternation around whether to keep something or not, they would probably just tell me to get rid of it. I think sometimes people will surprise you, and most people at least aren't constantly checking in on what you're keeping and what you're not. And if they are, you can just be real with them. Honestly, I've just decided to take guilt out of the equation, or at least if I feel guilt, to try not to let that determine my behavior so that I'm living according to my values and goals as opposed to just acting out of an emotion. Another category to declutter are items involved in projects you just never got around to. Maybe it's an art project you never finished, or maybe it's a home improvement project you never even started. But if you have a bunch of materials that you aren't ever going to really use, maybe it's time to let them go. I know recently I came across some old chicken wire that I never actually used, as well as some old dried flowers that were left over from a flower arrangement, but there weren't enough of them to create something else out of it. And I realized in both these cases, I was just keeping it out of the what ifs of what if they're useful to me at some point. And there might be cases where that's beneficial if you really think you'll use them, but I'd had them for a while and I wasn't using them. So I just needed to have a real conversation with myself about, should I keep this or not? A 10th one is old pet toys that have been chewed through. Sometimes I've kept old toys that Ginger used to love because I feel like it brings me back to maybe when she was a puppy, or I think maybe I'll be able to fix it and she'll use it again. But especially if I've fixed a toy more than once and it's just really not doing well, it's time for me to get over that nostalgia and let it go. Because at that point, it's not serving a purpose for me. If I give it to Ginger and it's already damaged, it might actually be a health problem for her. So I've been trying to be better about getting rid of old toys that are just going to be a hindrance more than a help. An 11th one is the backup old coffee beans that you've been keeping that you actually hate. I don't know if I'm the only one, but sometimes I'll have a big bag of coffee beans that I really don't like, but I'll just keep in case I run out of coffee. But I don't ever enjoy it when I use it, and it's also probably stale and not good to use. I've realized, you know what, if I ever run out of coffee, I can go to a store. I also think this could apply to other things. Are there items that you're just keeping as a backup that you could actually just get rid of if you don't like them or they're not that useful to you, knowing that you could always go to a store if you really needed to? A 12th one is expired medication. I know maybe this is obvious, but I'm bad at throwing away old medications. And this is actually potentially a safety issue. So this is just your friendly reminder to get rid of those. A 13th category is storage bins that are empty that you no longer use. Empty storage bins, I found, only encourage me to keep more. So while maybe having 1 or 2 backups is reasonable, if you have like a whole big pile of bins that you just aren't using, I think that'll just encourage you to continue to collect. A 14th one is old chargers, especially the ones where you don't even know what they go to anymore. I feel like we all have that bin of wires that is full of all these doodads that we don't even know how they work or what they're for. And sometimes I then keep them out of guilt, like what if later I need this charger? But this is just me giving you permission to get rid of those, especially if you really don't know what they're for or you never use them. A 15th one is ad-based paper clutter. Things like magazines, paper ads from the mail, or even takeout menus. I've been a little better about right away when I bring in my mail to just go through and grab the magazines or the pieces that are just plain ads and toss them in the bin. Then I can slow down and focus on the more important mail. So those were my 15 ideas today for things you can go out and declutter today. Hopefully it sparked something inside of you to go out and to feel empowered to do just a little bit of minimizing in your space. Because let's be real, after you've done even a little bit, you feel so much better. Also, if you're new here, hi, I'm Aylin, and welcome to my channel where I talk about simple living, minimalism, and building an empowering mindset. If any of that interests you, please hit the subscribe button below, and also any of you, please hit the thumbs up button to help support the channel. It really is one of the best things, or maybe the easiest things you can do to keep me going with these videos and to support the channel. So if you're willing to take a moment to do that, I would so appreciate it. Anyway, that's all I've got for you in this one, but thank you so much for spending this little bit of time with me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye!